What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Behind the Door with Jeremy Hiltz and Brandon Brown and a team of extraordinary human beings. We're very fortunate today to have a special guest with us, a good friend of the podcast, a good friend of us personally, my man Michael Connors. Say what's up to the people, Mike.
Hey, what up, though?
Love that. So this is actually a really, really special episode. For those of you that have been listening in, we've been covering a lot of topics, and you've heard the story about how Jeremy obtained the door and kind of the significance of the actual physical prison door that we have in our possession and what we've, decided to do with it. But one thing that we haven't talked extensively about is, and Jeremy's, mentioned it briefly, but Mike was actually Jeremy's roommate behind cell door number 18. And so we don't have to go into too much of the story about how you guys know each other, because that's the coolest part of the story, is that you were both behind cell door number 18 that we now bring around the country and generate conversations with. But Mike, thanks for coming on with us today to talk a little bit about your story and talk about the story of the door and the work that you're doing, and just give a little bit more context for the people that are listening about how you met Jeremy, where you guys came to live together in that cell, where you were, what the program was and all that. And, you can basically, it's wide open, talk about whatever you want, but we already know Jeremy's a little bit weird, so you don't have to get too deep into that rabbit hole. So,
First off, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Jeremy, for having me on the show. I've been following you guys and just knew this was going to happen and just waiting for the time to happen, and here it is. I met Jeremy, they put me into the CRA program and took me from a real comfortable spot. I was up to Bucks Harbor at the time. I'd been up there for 2 weeks. Just bought all my hygiene and stuff, and then 2 weeks later, they said, hey, pack up your stuff and you're going to the CRA program. I was not happy about that. And so I get in there, and they put me in room 18, and Jeremy's in there, and I'm just asking him questions, and I'm like, what is this place about? I heard so many things. And it's like, yeah, I just got here 2 weeks ago, so it's like, I don't really like it that much either. And I think either that day or the next day, or it was the first week at least, I said, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. And Jeremy's like, just tell me you want to leave.
I just quit.
I said, you're right.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I should have just told the prison, I'm good, guys.
Right.
I just enjoy working.
It made so much sense, So I go down there, and I talk to the Director Jim, and I said, I don't want to be here. I want to go. He's like, this is going to happen. You're going to have SEG. You're not going to have no jobs. I was like, that's cool. I just don't want to be here, And he told me that day, he's like, give it a week. I'd like you to give it a week. If you come back here a week's time and you say, you know what, Director Jim, I tried it for a week. I still want to go. I'll set it up and you'll get going. But please give me a week. Would you do that? And I agreed to do that. And, I came back up. And of course, my whole plan was to leave that next week and just do the week and prove that I could do it. But I didn't end up leaving, and I ended up staying there, and that was one of the best decisions of my life.
Yes, I think it's amazing. So I didn't realize until this moment, knowing both of you guys, I didn't know that you actually met behind door number 18, in that. So I didn't realize that was, the two of you's first encounter with each other. So that's like an even cooler layer to the story and the significance of the door itself. And I know for you, Mike, that the door, that specifically cell number 18, has a lot of significance in your life. And to hear you, kind of say that you gave it the week and, your plans changed. What was it about the CRA program in that 7 days where you were dead set on leaving? What was some of the eye-opening things that made you decide to actually stay and stick it out?
A lot of reasons, really, a lot of reasons. There was a man there that I had done time with before. His name was Gilberto. Rest in peace. Miss him. But the times that I had done time with him in the past, he was a much different man.
Yeah.
When I saw him in the CRA, he was like I mean, the guy could throw his hands, you know what I mean? And he didn't take crap from anybody. And I always kind of looked up to him because he kind of looked out for me my first bid, you know? And so I go to the CRA and he's there and he's like saying these mantras in the morning that they would do and in the evening and saying that he was his brother's keeper. And he was just, I could tell that he had changed. I could tell that he had changed. And that just struck me. And there was a couple other people that I had known from doing time too. And I was like, wow, these guys are really doing it. And then having the conversations that I would have with Jeremy in the cell. Again, I didn't know him. And with the first few weeks, I don't think we really got along that well. You know what I mean? Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong. You know?
Is that true? Jeremy?
Well, to be fair, I didn't get along with anybody, so.
True. We got close a couple times, and I'm glad we didn't get into any altercations. But something happened, and maybe it was just because we were trapped in that room a lot, you know what I mean? But we just started having conversations, man, like real conversations, you know what I mean? Like, of course, it started off with small talk. You know, he likes the Red Sox, I like the Yankees, so that's probably another reason we didn't like each other, you know? But it was like we were sharing our stories with one another in that room, man. And we were just telling them straight up, you know what I mean? And I think we bonded over that. We bonded over our individual trauma. We bonded over the situation we were in, you know what I mean? Because that program did, you know, what Gilberto was saying, I am my brother's keeper. I bought into that eventually, right? And I do believe that today, that I am my brother's keeper. I want to be there for my brother and, you know, lift them up when they may be struggling and cheer them on and like maybe try to give them some direction if they've had a slip or anything, you know what I mean? Instead of like doing the old thing, not paying attention, not saying nothing, and just watching them suffer, you know? It's not a guarantee that if I say something, they're going to stop, but it's like hard for me to like just watch it and not say anything. I refuse to watch it now. I have to speak up, so.
It's amazing, man. Jeremy, for you, like, you know, hearing Mike kind of rewind the tape and reminisce on you guys meeting and like that bonding experience that happened behind door number 18 and in the CRA program. You've talked extensively on a couple episodes about how formative and important the CRA program was for you. You know, almost from like a bird's eye view, right? How the effects that the whole program had on your life. But obviously you guys have a really special relationship and we'll get into that with the work that you do together. But like, what's your feeling here? And Mike kind of replay that about the bond that you guys were able to form in that cell.
Yeah, the reason I requested the door from the DOC, like it was on my mind when I knew that they were tearing that part of the prison down, was more symbolic to what Mike's talking about. You know what I mean? Like what happened in there for me personally. Because because it's you know, the program, and we've talked about this before, but the program itself was like it was not socially accepted in the prison system, right? Absolutely. So my walls were up already. You know what I mean? Going into it, my wall. I didn't unpack my bag. I still have I might still have my plastic bag on the ground when Mike got into the room. You know. And, you know, and just for context, it was a very small physical space. You know what I mean? It was like
tiny,
very small. I could like, stand in the middle of it and be able, maybe with my elbows, you know what I'm saying? Like it was 2 bunks, a toilet. It was the toilet stall, you know what I mean? With 2 beds in it, you know.
And a locker and a plant.
And a locker and a plant. I actually liked the plant because it was like, we kind of got it early on. And then, you know, we just take care of it and watch it grow and stuff. It was cool.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing that was important for me in obtaining the door was like symbolizing this for myself. Like, this is sort of where my recovery started. You know what I mean? Because before I had got there, I was at a minimum security camp and I was using cocaine and benzos before I got there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And So when I met Mike, it was almost like my recovery started inside that room, and the relationship that I was building with Mike, it allowed me to take it into the community that I was in. You know what I mean? Because I was like learning to trust Michael, and I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I'm like learning to have these conversations, because I've had, obviously, you do time, you have different roommates at different times and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And there's this level of like, yeah, you're getting to know somebody because you like just living with them. But most of the time it was like, you get a roommate and it's like you learn how to coexist in that space. You don't really,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you learn how to live with that person so that you're both accountable. You know what I mean? But this was, and so, but I'd have conversations with people. I'd tell war stories and this and that. But with Mike, it was like we, first started talking, and some of the stuff that we were learning in the groups and the counseling. I'm a venter. You know what I mean? So I would hold on as I get frustrated. I hold on to stuff. And I go back in the room and I vent. You know what I mean? In the room behind that door, and then we would start processing this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as it's gone on, like I got to know Michael as a father and how much he loved his grandmother and his family and like everything that was going on there. And so we would talk about things like, how are we going to be better men and fathers for our children? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Real shit.
yeah, real shit, like stuff that I had never really been able to talk to another man about, like my shortcomings and like how I was going to overcome like things that like I was completely ashamed about, you know what I mean? And so when we're, going through that, it was like that relationship allowed me to like move more into the community. Like I have, you know what I mean? I started trusting Mike, and then it's like, there was other men there that we started forming close relationships with, you know what I mean? And then, but I think for me, it all started in there, you know what I mean? In that space, in that bathroom stall we had to live in.
Yeah, that's
10
where we
months,
practiced.
In the
Yeah,
shit.
go ahead.
In the shit.
Yeah, we're in there in the middle of, we went through a few seasons in there, you know what I mean? At one point, it's like, so hot that all you can wear is the thin ass boxer shorts they give you on there,
Yeah.
And then
That's real too for people.
And then winter comes, and we got ice on the toilet. You know what I mean? Like snow on the thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, winter was no joke.
it was, and that's the thing, is that we're dealing with these conditions together, but we're also like trying to, you know what I mean, fix ourselves as men. And like I there's a saying, it's like iron sharpens iron, right? Like we tested each other, and but since then, Michael has become like a brother to me. You know what I mean? Like he's like my brother. You know what I mean? I don't have a whole lot of family. You know what I'm saying? And to have Mike, where we started from, and then everything that's happened in between there, it's been I've been out, I think, be 15, 16 years this November 30th. So
16
years, November 30th, it'll be 16 years I've been free. And, in that, it's almost like a lifetime. You know what I mean? Like it feels like a long time.
Well, yeah, that was, 16 was about when you started your first bid, right? So literally,
yeah, it's like what I
it's
mean?
an actual lifetime in a lot of ways.
And I think one of the things that I related to with Mike the most was like he helped me recognize like trauma, like what it was really my fault and what wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you guys talk about the experience, and one thing that that really struck me, Mike, when you were talking, was this idea, the mantra that I am my brother's keeper. And I can't help but think about, in past episodes, we've talked about how the CRA program like helped unravel some of the ridiculousness of the convict code.
Yeah.
And this myth of being your brother's keeper it's so embedded into our prison culture, right? It's only embedded in its like expression, its audible expression.
Yeah.
Right. We say all the time, I watched thousands and thousands of guys claim to be solid and be my brother's keeper, and I would do anything for the people that I love. And I started realizing years into being in prison, but like you can't stay out. and the people that you really love and the people that love you, that's the only thing they want.
Yeah.
Right. And we'd be so quick to defend somebody's honor that we loved with violence. And you talked about your buddy Gilberto, and, you know, like that was that obvious change that he had made. Was he started embodying the authentic parts of the prison culture and shed the useless stereotypical ones. And I think that for me, listening to your stories, the most powerful part about your experience together is that you found genuine brotherhood that was based on things that matter, like trust and like honor and loyalty. And loyalty requires both people knowing what's best for each person. And so it's like really refreshing to hear you talk about that process of like iron sharpening iron through the fire. Right. And really like understanding that what you shared was because you both recognized that you wanted to make a change and were able to get vulnerable enough to talk about what needed to change. And I think about too, like the program that you have at Recovery Connections in Maine, Jeremy. And when I hear you talk about your experiences behind that cell door with Mike, I can see how the culture of your program has been formed, right? Because it's things that you personally went through. It's things that really helped you both establish that genuine desire to change and support one another in that. And that's what I see in the program. So I just wonder if that's, you know, if that's ever present in what you guys do.
It is. And for people that don't know, Michael he runs our 22 bed men's residential facility. You know, and there's a similar
with a lot of help from other folks.
Yeah. But Mike is there doing that work now, and there's like definitely, you know what I mean? It's definitely the spirit of that program sort of goes along with that. And I think the biggest thing is about community and like building the connection with each of these guys that are in there, right? Like that's the foundation. And when if that's all we got is connection, and like we can beat the world, you know what I'm saying? With you know, good connection, you know.
And that's what we did in the room. You know what I mean? That's what we did in the room after we were able to get through the initial, like, hey, this is different, I don't like this, and just started trying to connect with a conversation.
Yeah.
Really, right? You know, and I don't know what it was. That grabbed our attention. Maybe we talked about our kids. Maybe we talked about sports. Something allowed us to relate somewhere, right? And start having those real conversations. Like I remember you writing letters to your children who are super young now, and like to see the type of father you are today out here doing it is like, I've seen that process from like you were planning it out, right? Putting it down on paper, right? Not getting a lot of responses back then, right?
Sunday night with free stamps. I get my 2 free stamps and I'd be at the table.
Every Sunday you'd be there writing, and to see like where those seeds were planted, right? And to see where you're out with your family today, that's like that's a beautiful thing to witness. And that just tells me that like this process works. And that's why I think we believe in it so much.
It's a powerful thing, like to hear the impact of modeling like attitudes and behaviors that matter, right? And so like you're talking about, you got to connect over something regardless of what it was. And then in that respectful dialogue and interaction with each other, you got to model vulnerability, you got to model aspirational thinking, you got to model genuine efforts at changing, you know, the things that, you know, that you've been through to the extent that you could, so that you could get different outcomes. And I think about in community, what's so important is that you have to have people that are willing to like take that bold first step of modeling the behaviors that, you know, everybody like wants. One thing that I've like almost struggled with in a lot of conversations lately is like debunking people's belief that like people think that you're just bad and you want to go to prison. You don't know it. Nobody wants to go to prison.
No.
Like neither of you wanted to end up in cell number 18 in that program. Neither of you, like, you know, there's a lot of people that just give up hope. I'm destined for nothing but this. And then they embrace it as a, you know, mechanism of self-protection. but nobody actually wants to do that. And so like getting out of the irony that the culture creates in us to adopt those self-destructive behaviors, and like that in itself as a first step takes so much vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right. To decide that I'm not going to be the culture that I've been taught to subscribe. And, you know, whether it was as a father or as a friend or as a son or a grandson, whatever it was that, you know, made each of you decide that that's something that you didn't want anymore. The hardest thing to do in life once you've entered into that, you know, the prison space, the justice space, whatever it is to actually make that first step to say, not only do I not want this life, but I'm going to actively pursue something different. And you've both done it. And I think like, I'm not going to say what your license plate is, because I feel like that would be weird.
Oh, you can if you want.
I mean, if you're down with it, but like, I look at both of you. I look at Jeremy with you getting the door and the program you run. I also would love to hear more about the story of how you connected in this work after prison. But like for people really to understand the significance of how impactful that experience was for you. Like you've got the number 18 on your license plate.
I do. And like you said earlier, that number really means a lot to me. That was the year my grandmother was born too, my great-grandmother, and she raised me for most of my childhood. So like, her nickname is tattooed on my arm. She was like my right-hand woman. I literally don't even know where I would be without this woman. Like, you know, there's who knows, you know? So, and I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah.
I don't think those things are...
Is that something you recognized in the moment when, like, at what point in that program in cell number 18 did you realize the non-coincidental nature of that?
Not till many, many years later.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I don't think you can really do that in the moment. Like you have to see the body of work, and then like what's happened and the experiences that you show up for each other in. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's where, you know what I'm saying, then you look back and go, man, this is where this thing started at, and you know what I mean? It's hard, I think, we couldn't have understood the gravity. My best hope for myself when I was getting out, I thought I was going to be successful, was like, if I get a little job in an apartment, and I see my kids on the weekends, like that's going to be success. That's what success is going to look like for me. Yeah, I mean, because like you can only see yourself so far in that moment, right? And so you can't really put the weight of it until you have, the history with it. So I didn't really understand the significance of it either until we were sort of working in the field together, and then our group, our organization has a habit of collecting people, you know what I mean? Then we look around, it's like, there's me and then Mike, and then, Billy, he was a couple doors down from us, you know what I mean? KJ, you know what I mean? Timmy was there, he's working with us too, you know what I mean? So there's like, you start looking around and see, and then there's the weight too, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that becomes,
how that happen?
Well, no, seriously, how like we have, Mike had referenced Director Jim. And Director Jim was a real special guy to us, right? And he led a lot of men, and he changed. He was very, very influential in our life. Yeah. And we went to his funeral a couple of years ago, and it was 6 guys, I think, right?
Yeah, 5.
5 guys went down there, and we all worked together today, doing the same work.
Yeah,
the work that he had put for, you know what I mean? Like he taught us how to do this, you know what I mean?
We got to meet his brother and some of his other family and just share like what he meant to us, and they were just like, they had no idea who we were, you know what I mean? They were just like, wow, he was touching lives, and he was, you know what I mean? He taught us resilience too, right?
Yeah.
And he was tough on us. I don't want anybody to think he was.
But that's the only reason that it lasted, I think.
Yeah, but he was tough, but he used to be real with us too. Like, you men do not deserve to be in here. Men do not deserve to be locked up like this.
He put that in us.
Yeah.
He made me believe that, like,
absolutely,
what Mike's saying is, like, I shouldn't be in the cage. You know what I'm saying? Like, he put that in us, and he did it a different way.
How important is that? Like, because I'm shivering hearing you say that, because I've said, for a while now that every single person who's successful out here after incarceration can boil the story of their success down to a single moment where somebody treated them like a human.
Well, and the other thing that he gave to me, which has been super helpful now, is he looked at me like a man, right?
Yeah.
Like in that situation. He didn't look at me as a convict. He didn't look at me at any of that stuff, right? And he was actually would tell him to hold a mirror up for you. You know what I mean? And the thing that it helps me with is like, you know, in our work, we see a lot of different people that have said a lot of different things to us that, like, you know, we've dealt with, you know, anger and, you know, hostility and all these different things. We've dealt with a lot of grief and loss in our work. But Director Jim put it in me that, like, I can't look at anybody. Everybody's just human beings here. You know what I mean? Because if somebody can look at me like a human being in that situation that I was in, after everybody else previously, not everybody else, but previously I've been treated like shit. And now this one man is like, you know, like you're saying, like looks at me as a different person.
Yeah, with dignity.
And now I got to do that. Now I got to pass that on. You know what I'm saying? I got to carry that forward to the next man. I can't look at you based on what you're crying, what you did, or how you did treated somebody else, or whatever's going on. Everybody's just like, we're all just trying to survive in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Mike, how did you get into the work? Like, how, you know, now you're, you know, with a team of great people running a 22-bed residential facility. What was your, after the program, after your release from, you know, from the prison, what was your introduction into, you know, this world that you're in now?
Yeah. So after the CRA program, I had some time in recovery, and then I went back out. You know what I mean? Committed some more crimes, did some more time, and always would talk to Jeremy periodically through that time. But like when I'm going, I'm going. I don't really have time to talk to people. And I was in Belfast at the reentry center. And I had gotten out of there, and I was walking to the Hutchinson Center in Belfast to sign up for classes. And I happened to be, I was taking the bus. You know, of course, I don't have a license or a car back then. And I happened to be talking to Jeremy, and he was already in the field, and he was telling me what he did. And as he's telling me this, I'm like walking into the Hutchinson Center, and I just turn around and walk out of the Hutchinson Center. Because I just knew that he wasn't going to give me any false information.
Yeah.
He was leading me the way. And he told me the process to do this. I went to school, got my credits to become a counselor, took the test. But I can't say that without saying this. I went to school, and then my internship came up. And I just recently had got my license back in a car. And Jeremy was fortunate enough to get me an internship into where he was working at the time, another company that we both used to work at. And I was working 5 days a week, still doing school, a couple classes with the internship. And I was living in Belfast, and my internship was going to be 10 hours a day on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I was like, geez, I'm in Belfast. I'm going to do, like, I'm like gas money at the time. How am I going to spend gas money, right? Where am I, how am I really going to do this financially? And Jeremy by this time had met Brandy and got married, and he actually let me stay right here on Wednesday nights, where we're actually, see, everything comes around to a circle, right? Like,
right now,
like when I was sleeping down here on the pull-out couch bed, like there's no way it'd be like, hey, and 10 years or so, you're gonna be sitting here doing a podcast. You know what I mean? And so I just listened to what he did. Brandy didn't even know me. She's like this, she thinks Jeremy's just got one of his prison buddies staying in the basement. She has, you know what I mean? And so I did that, and I didn't have any days off for 56 straight days. Mm-hmm. My days off, Monday and Tuesday, I'd do that. Come here, I'd eat with Jeremy and Brandy. That's how I developed a relationship with Brandy and Jeremy's children. And it's just wild. That's, and here we are today. Yeah. It just doesn't happen a lot.
No, and I mean, it should. And that's, I think when we think about the components that are missing in our society, even in our microcosm of formerly incarcerated people, all the things that you're talking about, are oftentimes missing, right? Like that mutuality, that vulnerability, that respect, that brother's keeper mentality to lift people up. A lot of times we aspire to have that, but then dealing with the weight of somebody else's problems when we're trying to figure out the weight of our own, becomes a blockade for us. And I think that in all the stories that I've heard of people who have been successful, it's because somebody has lifted them up and they've lifted somebody up as well. It's that, mutual process of like being vulnerable enough to get help, but also being strong enough in weak moments to help as well. And it's wild to hear your story, like literally that this is the physical space that you were sleeping at when you and Jeremy were kind of on that, same respective paths. But I want to point out one part of your story, Mike, that's really important, I think. And it's that, you came out of the program and you were doing well and you had some time in recovery, and then you went back out. And one thing that we've talked about in a few episodes is like this idea of how many chances do we give people, right? How many chances does it take? And for everybody, it's different. For some people, it's one. For some people, it's 173.
Yeah.
But when you see somebody fulfill the peak of their potential, right? When you see somebody actually step into a role where they're making the world a better place, it doesn't matter how many chances they had before.
Why?
And I think that's a really important part of your story to shine a light on, is like, regardless of, the program didn't have the desired effect on you right away, but it had the desired effect on you. And I look at what you do out here and the partnership you have with Jeremy and the good that you guys are doing in our communities. And it's just important to highlight that even if it took you 10 more times, if you arrive at the same point you're at now, then we have to continue to give you 10 more chances. And I just think that's so important. And it's such a pivotal part of the intersection that we talk about with recovery, re-entry, and incarceration. We have to envelope community around people no matter how many times they fail, because community is the only way that somebody's going to find success. And sometimes people haven't processed their trauma, and they haven't processed the things they've been through, and they haven't processed, the process. They haven't processed the process of being incarcerated specifically. But man, I look at the work you guys do, and you've got like 13 people that are directly impacted, that have done significant amounts of prison time, working directly with you, running programs, doing every different aspect of the Recovery Connections of Maine work. And I think that says a lot. And I don't think we talk about that enough. The actual like mini army of quality people that you've assembled who have collectively done hundreds of years in prison. And I think about how that might sit with people listening.
All right.
Like, these are people that a lot of society has written off.
All right.
And you guys have built a community of support, a community of care, a community, like, probably, in my opinion at least, and I'm a little bit biased because I love the shit out of all you guys, but in my opinion, it's the best recovery program that we have in our state. And it's run by and operated by, a ton of formerly incarcerated people.
Yeah. And when you say 13 people, I say 13 families.
Yeah.
Right? But we know this is a family disease, right? And it all is a circle. It all is a circle, because I can remember me and Jeremy having conversations, and like, I remember when Jeremy's getting out, he was kind of unsure where he was going to go. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I was at this place, and I suggested it to him, and he was able to talk with the guy and get in and develop a relationship, and that's where he was able to go when he got out. So it's like, when I needed a spot, like, he had the resource for me too, and he never gave up on me, right?
Yeah.
He never said, because there was times where, Brandon, I was using drugs, man, and I contacted Jeremy. I thought that maybe I could get $20-$40 from him to keep the run going, and he'd say, I'll come meet you, you know what I mean? And I'll be like, oh, man, great. He's going to give me money for drugs, you know what I mean? It's great. And he would meet me, and I remember this time, man, I was up for days, man, around town, and I was just trying to keep going. I said, I need some money. He's like, I'm not giving you any money, man. He was going through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru. He's like, you want a coffee? I'm like, sure, whatever. And I was like, well, I at least need some money for cigarettes, man.
Yeah.
And he just like had a pack and maybe a couple gone. He threw it to me. And I was mad though, but he said, but as I was getting out of the truck, he said that he loved me and he believed in me. And in the moment, I'm like, why would this guy love me? Because I felt so terrible about myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he never gave up on me. And even when it came time for the internship, he never gave up on me. And that's just me. And I get to watch him interact and do that in the work we do with other people that he doesn't even know or just meeting for the first time. So,
and I'm gonna take a pause because I just want to recognize, I'm sitting next to like two men that I appreciate and respect and love very much, and Jeremy and I have created this friendship together that started off way before we ever envisioned this idea, and has like evolved through this Behind the Door podcast and project and everything that we do with the door. But I just want to take a second to tell you, Jeremy, and tell people who are listening that what Mike just said, I've heard that story no less than 50 times from 50 different people. And I just want to recognize that we talked about how you develop your relationship inside of that cell and what it took, and it took authenticity, and it took showing up, and it took vulnerability. But I've watched you model that behavior in our community with my own eyes, but I've heard countless stories of the moment where somebody realized, because you showed up for them, that they could change and that they were, somebody that was worth dignity and respect and 57th chances. And so I just want to say thank you, man, like here on air, for our listeners to hear that it's the reason that your program works so well is because everything that you talk about, you embody, you model.
I second that.
Yeah. And I hope that you can, I just want you to hear that. And I know that it's important to you to do that as well.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, you know what I mean? And it's like, we cannot, as a society, as anybody, right? We cannot look at things as chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a heartbeat. It's all we need. You know what I mean? There ain't no chances. Like, we have one life to live. I've said this before. We have one life to live. And when we can look at people as like, we just want to keep going. You know what I mean? That's when like the change happens, when we remove the labels or this or that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't look at like Mike as how he felt. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, that's my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like we had already been through all that shit. You know what I'm saying? I did believe in him. That was 100% truth. You know what I mean? Because he was there for me when my back was against the wall. When I didn't, you know what I mean? When I felt like I was alone, I didn't have them. Mike started showing up for me. You know what I mean? And people that I didn't really know showed up for me too. You know what I mean? That they believed in me when they didn't know me. You know what I mean? So, in my own recovery, my personal life, the way things work, it's like you do what the people before you did. You know what I mean? That's what Director Jim taught me. That's what like my recovery path has taken me on. You know what I mean? And when I look at like the trauma piece, you know what I mean? Like in my own recovery from trauma, my own recovery from that dysfunctional lifestyle. If people weren't able to connect with me in some sort of way, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be? Who am I going to be? Like, how can I did not get to where I'm at without the help of a lot of fucking people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't get through that program without the help of a lot of people. I didn't make this transition in my life with a ton of people, right? Because, without people and like understanding and paying the I show gratitude by helping the next man for the person that helped me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so it's like this. It's to me. It's not like it's what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've seen it, you felt it, and you want to recreate that for other people. I think sometimes especially when, we're locked up or we're coming out, like we're in survival mode, and that almost can get lost on us sometimes when people do show up for us, and it really takes like
I'll just tell you a little story real quick. This morning, a kid calls me up, and he tells me that I was just released from prison after 6 years. Yesterday morning, I'm eating my breakfast, and I think I got over a year left on my sentence. That afternoon, something happened with his the way his sentences were put into the system and stuff like that, where they released his sentence, his time was up, and they released him to. They drove him from the Maine State Prison and drove him to the Ramada Inn in Portland. And he called me, but he didn't have any resource. He's from New Hampshire. He's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's stuck. And he just got done doing 6 years. You know what I mean?
And he wasn't literally mentally, emotionally, physically prepared to come home because
Had no, usually you have, what I mean? You're thinking, okay, you're in the process. When I'm I got a year left in prison. I am not thinking about anything to, like, what I mean? Like, you're doing time. You know what I mean? Especially if you're in 6 years, you're embedded in that. Your mind hasn't changed. And so, he called me up and he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where to go. I heard you speaking at the prison in Wyndham. And, I don't, what I mean? I called another place and he asked me because he had like an armed robbery on his record, and he called another recovery house and they were like, oh, I don't know if you're going to be safe here because you're a violent criminal.
yeah,
Right. And, so he was very discouraged, right? And then I said, just sit tight, dog. I'll be right there to get you. I'll take care of everything. We got your medication covered. You don't worry about anything. I'm coming to get you. And by the end of that day, so this afternoon, we were able to go pick him up and bring him to a safe house to be at, and with a bunch of people that like have been through a similar experience and are doing good. We got him set up with treatment, and his medication's taken care of. And then he went, he took him to the store. He copped a pair of Nikes, and then Timmy, who has been through the CRA with us, took him shopping and got him a haircut, and he's probably taking a nap right now. You know what I'm saying? And that, and I was thinking about it when he had called me. It was like, this is a scenario where this kid's going to be in a hotel. They're going to find this kid in a hotel room. He had $2,000. However, he had cash in his pocket. He was alone. He couldn't leave the state because he was on probation in Maine, but all his family's from another state. You know what I mean? And but what would I do if I said, hey, let me just let me try to figure. You know what I mean? Like create some barriers for this kid. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a human being, right? And I picked him up, and he's a great kid. You know what I'm saying? He's just scared to death. You know what I'm saying? You can see that tension and anxiety of coming out of a maximum security prison for 6 years in the community. You know what I mean? And
Thank God he's able to make a call.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, he got the number. He made the call. We were able to go out and get him. But I can guarantee you this: I don't know how many times Michael, I look over. Where's Michael at? Oh, he's out here helping this person.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, Mike does little stuff like, somebody's needs space. I seen him give people shelves for their closets so they can, have room for their stuff in the small space, because Mike knows what it's like to be stuck in that. You know what I mean? I seen him bring people to the hospital. We've gone on with trying to find people that we care about, like on the streets that are in treatment with us. We go to their house, you know what I'm saying, and have these conversations.
Yeah.
And there isn't, so this is what I'm saying, is that like, this is who Michael is. So how could I look at Michael any different than anybody else in those moments to say what I put for drugs into my body doesn't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying?
who I was before the moment that I was great.
Right.
Doesn't define me, and that's the part I think that like
Sometimes we get people at their worst moments in their whole lives. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? The extreme loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm talking. Yeah, we just see so much extreme loss, and then to be a person that's I'm not looking at myself in the mirror as a person who stood in judgment of somebody else in their worst moment of their life.
It's I just can't help but like I have to name that in the story that you just told. Like, this individual got released under circumstances that were completely out of his power, right? Got released way before being mentally or emotionally prepared to make that transition. Didn't have time to set anything up. And like you said, made a call to an organization that's literally designed to help people with that transition, and was judged for the mistakes of his past. And I can only imagine what would have happened if he made 2 more phone calls and had 2 more receptions that were similar to that. And then we blame people in society. Oh, you don't have the resilience. You don't have the resilience to just...
This is the thing, is that like, I know what helped me. Like Michael, gave me his contact for this, the friendship house down in South Portland, which, by the way, like me and Mike and a couple of people were going to their charity fundraiser event, and we got a table there that they want to talk to. You know what I mean? They want us to talk.
Is that the
about,
gala?
I don't think. No, it's not a.
Something
It's not a
else, okay.
gala. No, not gala.
No gala. No gala.
Yeah.
But I think it's just really the what I've learned from my relationship with Michael and where it started is that what we're just talking about right now. Like that's how I got through it. That's the only way I can see. You know what I mean? It's like, and there's another side of it too. It's like a lot of this, there's some selfishness that's involved in it, right? Because I feel better when I help somebody.
Yeah, that's
You know
a
what I'm saying?
good selfishness to have, though. I mean, if we got to be selfish, that's the selfish we should choose.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, I just want to ask you one more question because, like, after learning about you and hearing some of your story and the connection with you and Jeremy, I mean, this is a selfish question. I'm just interested. How do you feel about this fact that we've been bringing the door all around the country and, like recording these episodes to try to kind of enlighten people into like real conversations and bring some humanity into, the conversation around recovery and reentry incarceration. What's it been like for you, watching that journey, because that door has so much significance to you in your life?
Yeah.
I'm just interested in, what you think about the whole platform that we're trying to establish.
I just think it's dope, man. I just think it's really cool. Like, I applaud you guys. I see you guys going. I'm like, I wish I had the energy to keep up with it. I just don't. But I just think it's cool to spread the word and the message of hope. You know what I mean? It breaks my heart when, like, Jeremy was talking about, I have a violent crime, so I can't even have a chance, right? It's like nobody even really believes in you.
Yeah.
Right? When you hear that stuff, it's like, I don't even get a chance to try to redeem myself. I can't change is what you're essentially telling. I've done something that I cannot change, right? And when you're constantly giving somebody that message, like, what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
Like, you can't change. Why try? Because you're a violent offender, So that means you can't change. And it's like, why are we setting up so many barriers like that, Man,
I literally just thought about this in the moment to hear you say that, and it's like, it's funny how the evolution of the door and behind the door as a project just continues to go. Every time we have one of these conversations, we get another layer of complexity to it, and in a lot of ways, the door for me symbolizes exactly what you just said, because when people look at that door, all they see is ugly steel. And if they know what it is, all of those prejudgments come with it. And, it's just like when we were in Times Square, they just walk past it. Either they don't know what it is, they don't give it the time of day, or they do know what it is and they don't give it the time of the day because they know what it is.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, the door represents the person that you were just describing, right? The door has its own symbolism. It has its own connotations. It has its own history, but we're repurposing it. And so now you're not going to see it as just a prison door. Now you're going to see it as a form of art. Now you're going to see it juxtaposed against things that you wouldn't expect to see it, so that you actually have to recognize the truth of it. Just like you have to, if you want people to succeed, you have to recognize the truth of their humanity. And you have to recognize the truth that they're deserving of dignity. And so I just want to say thank you, because that your whole comment just now sparked for me another layer of what this door is, and it's repurposing something that people think is useless and broken and ugly and making it beautiful and useful and important. And that's what we're really trying to do with the podcast. That's what we're really trying to do with these conversations, is shine a light on an inaccessible set of stories that people don't ever get to hear.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, man, the fucking door is out of prison.
Yeah.
The door is out, right? Like, who can say, like, I have the prison door?
Yeah.
The door is released. The door is going around the country.
On wheels now, might we add. It's always we're thinking about putting a motor on it, but stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out the logistics of that.
I mean, really, if the door can get out, if the door can go to New York, if the door can go to DC, like, everybody should get a chance if the door can, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, we are repurposing it and redefining what it is. And so now, just for people that are wondering, when you see us rolling the prison door down the street, it's not a prison door, it's our emotional support door. Right? It's actually serving a very therapeutic purpose for us.
We actually were.
Get a vest for it.
Well, we were when we were in DC recently. I was like, Brandon, you know, the way we're gonna get it through security is you're just gonna ride the door, I'll push it, but I'm gonna strap you to the door.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use ratchet straps and put you on there like you can't walk.
Yeah, so it's my wheelchair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an emotional support door. It's a wheelchair. It's a piece of art. It can be. This is what we've realized. So at first, it was, even when we got it, it was a burden, right? Because we had to carry it everywhere, and it's heavy and awkward and dirty. I have like 73 pieces of clothing that are ruined by carrying that door. But now, because we repurposed it and we've evolved what it's capable of being, which is what we need to do to humans, now it's on wheels. And we push it, and it's very resistance, friction-free. We can bring it anywhere. It's accessible. And you know why it's accessible and why it's capable of being all these beautiful things? Because we gave it a chance to be something different.
That's right. Evolve.
Evolution.
That's right.
Well, listen, we appreciate you, Mike. You know, we appreciate your story, man. We appreciate the work that you're doing. We appreciate how you're out here in our community, you know, really showing people what it takes to be a change maker. And thank you for coming on this episode with us, man. We appreciate your time, and thank you for telling your story about your connection with prison door number 18.